Welcome back, seekers of the forbidden. This is Forbidden Files, where truth hides behind torn pages, and immortality might be nothing more than a well-kept secret. Tonight's subject: a man whose name echoes through centuries. A name whispered in old libraries and secret orders. A name tied to a single question: did Nicolas Flamel really discover the elixir of life? He was a bookseller, a scribe, a quiet man who lived in Paris in the 1300s. Married, kind, modest, and yet his name survives not in literary circles, but in the most dangerous of whispers: alchemy, the philosopher's stone, the elixir of immortality. Flamel didn't begin his journey as a sorcerer. He was just a man who loved books. One day, he came across a strange manuscript at an estate sale. Pages covered in symbols, drawings of dragons, suns, moons, and a tree that grew from both fire and blood. He tried to translate it, but the script was unknown. Even scholars couldn't help him. Until one night, a traveler from Spain, an alchemist, fleeing persecution, recognized the symbols. They were ancient Hebrew, Kabbalistic, and according to him, extremely dangerous. Together, over the course of years, they deciphered the book. And what they found was not metaphor, not poetry. It was instruction. The manuscript described the creation of the philosopher's stone, a mythical object said to turn lead into gold and grant the drinker eternal life. Most dismissed it as symbolic. Flamel did not. He began to experiment in secret, and sometime around 1382, something changed. The quiet bookseller suddenly became one of the wealthiest men in Paris. He bought houses, donated to hospitals, built churches, funded orphanages. And yet he never seemed to spend money. No signs of loans, no records of trade. Just wealth, and still, he and his wife Flamel remained humble. No heirs, because, perhaps, they didn't need any. Flamel began to vanish from public life. His home grew silent. Some say strange lights flickered in his study at night. Others say no one ever saw him eat, and then he died, buried in the church of Saint Jacques de l'Aubaucherie. But here's where the story breaks open. Centuries later, when his grave was opened during renovations, it was empty. No bones, no coffin, no trace. And that manuscript, gone, as if it had never existed. But sightings began to emerge. A man matching his description was seen in Venice in the 1500s. Again, in Prague, during the height of alchemical experiments. And even in Paris during the 17th. Or had Nicolas Flamel truly succeeded where every alchemist had failed? Had he found the stone? Had he drunk from the cup that no man was meant to taste? The answer may still be written, not in history books, but in the margins of forbidden me, and the corners of candlelit rooms where no one ever grows old. For most, death is the end. But, for Flamel, it may have only been the beginning. After his death in 1418, the records grew quiet, but the whispers grew louder. In 1612, a man named Robert Valois claimed to have found an original page from Flamel's manuscript. It glowed faintly, even in the dark, and its ink had not faded after more than 2 centuries. That same year, Valois vanished. His house was burned to the ground. Nothing was taken except the page. In Prague, 1637, Royal alchemist Michael Sendivogius wrote of a traveler who arrived with no papers but immense knowledge. He corrected Sendivogius' formulas, demonstrated a living gold that pulsed with energy, then disappeared. He was pale, soft-spoken, and wore a ring shaped like an Ouroboros. The name he gave, Nicolas. In 1710, a French noblewoman wrote in her diary about a strange guest at a royal banquet. He refused food, sipped only a dark wine, spoke Latin, Greek, and Hebrew with ease. Said he'd once studied with Raymond Lull, the famed alchemist who died in 1315. When questioned, he only smiled. Time is not a river, it's a circle. I walk its edge. And then he left. Vanished from a locked room. No one ever saw him again. But his name appeared in the guest ledger Flamel Nicolas. Even modern researchers haven't escaped the pull of his myth. In the 1990s, a sealed vault was discovered beneath what remained of Flamel's old Parisian home. Inside were alchemical diagrams, flasks sealed with wax, and symbols that match no known tradition. There was also a fragment of paper, a formula written in cipher. Translated, it read, "Do not seek the stone. The stone finds you. When your soul burns cleaner than gold." Scholars dismissed it as an elaborate hoax. But 3 months later, the building above the vault collapsed. No survivors. No cause found. Some believe Flamel walks, still changing identities, hiding behind shadows, guiding those who seek truth, eliminating those who seek power. But one mystery remains unresolved: Perenelle, his wife. She was said to be even more gifted than he was. Some legends say she discovered the formula first, and shared it only with him. If Flamel lives, then so does she. 2 ghosts, 2 minds, 2 souls, forever bound by fire, ink, and silence. And somewhere in the quiet corners of the world, where ancient libraries meet underground chambers, they wait, watching, choosing, because the elixir was never meant to be consumed by the many. It was meant for the few, the pure, the patient, the silent. The philosopher's stone was never just a rock. It was a cipher, a mirror, a gate. Those who searched for it with greed were blinded. Those who approached it with fear were turned away. Only those who emptied themselves of ego, of desire, of time could glimpse it. Flamel understood this. Or perhaps, because what he left behind wasn't just legend. It was a trail. A trail of books that shouldn't exist, written in alphabets no one has ever taught, of symbols that appear in dreams, the same across cultures, continents, and centuries, of formulas buried in cathedrals, encoded into stained glass, hidden inside organ pipes. At the edge of every clue his mark, a serpent devouring its tail. The cycle, the loop, eternal return. Some say Flamel isn't a man anymore. That the elixir didn't just halt aging. It unraveled time around him, made him unstuck. A traveler not of roads, but of centuries. There are stories from Nazi Germany of a man who walked into a lab and stopped an experiment cold with a single phrase. From Soviet Russia where a prisoner whispered a name before dying, and his cell froze solid from the inside. The name was always the same. Nicolas. But what if he's no longer hiding? What if he's watching? Alchemy was never about turning lead into gold. It was about turning man into more. Perfecting the self. Transcending flesh. What Flamel may have unlocked wasn't just immortality, but evolution. And maybe that's why the stone remains hidden. Not because it's lost, but because those who hold it choose silence. To protect it from us. From the ones who would use it for empire, for control, for war. Because the stone doesn't grant power, it reveals truth. And that truth is this: we were never ready. But we're getting closer. In the past 5 years alone, 2 independent researchers died while studying Flamel's cipher. A third vanished, and a fourth claimed to have seen something in a dream. A library made of light, a man in a crimson robe, and a voice that said, "You've come far enough." She woke with gold dust on her fingertips. Her heart stopped an hour later. Doctors found no cause. So the question remains, did Flamel find the stone, or did he become it? And if he's still walking among us, in libraries, in shadows, in silence, then maybe the real question isn't where he is, but who he's watching next.